Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space created weekly is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. I am so excited. It's Monday night. I just got back earlier this morning from Phoenix, and holy cow, what a weekend it was. I am so thrilled to be able to just talk to you guys about what went on behind the scenes. Not just like logistically and physically, but mentally and emotionally, just some things, some big takeaways that I had that I think would greatly benefit this listenership. I also want to take a moment as well too to give you some advice for those of you that are maybe walking out of HYROX Phoenix. Maybe you did a DECA this past weekend. Maybe you're just getting ready to race again. You're starting to hit back into race season. Whatever it may be, I want to give you some tips, some questions to ask yourself to really help you guide where you're going to take your next few steps so that you can find success. So I'm going to get to that. But first, let's talk about the Becoming Your Strong moment of the week. I think it goes without saying that every single person that stepped up to the starting line this past weekend deserves this shout out. Guys, I'm not kidding. The most beautiful thing about hybrid racing, whether it be HYROX or DECA or Deadly Dozens or whatever it is that you engage with it, is the ability for a lot of people to step up to the starting line and find their own finish. Like to cross their own finish line, to earn their own mark. It's one of the reasons why I've loved it. It's one of the reasons why I've loved coaching it. It's just absolutely incredible to see shapes, sizes, ages, levels. I mean, literally, there is no one size fits all within the hybrid community. And it was just so awesome to be a part of that at such a large scale this weekend and to be able to cheer so many people on. I do want to give out a very specific shout out to a woman that had a weekend of her life, and that's Miss Kat Fosbender. I had the most joy watching you throughout the entire weekend. For those of you that don't know, Kat actually was on the show a couple months ago, right before DECA Worlds. So if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to that episode, go listen to her and her story, how she got into hybrid racing, and take that inspiration from her story and apply it to what was this weekend, which was her debut in the Elite 15 doubles, pro women's doubles. And she ended up earning a qualifying spot with her partner, Morgan, and they're going to freaking Sweden. And it was one of the most intense races that I've ever seen. It was so stinking good. And like, you could just tell how much she hurt, but you could also tell how much she freaking wants it. And then she came back the next day, competed in women's pro, probably sore and tired as shit. And she took second place with a PR. And it's like, it's not just about the results as to the reason why I'm like, this is the moment to really call out. It's, again, if you know her mentality, her story, her grit, her tenacity, how she shows up, you will know that nothing was just given to her. Like, she had to work insanely hard for this. And I love following her just because it inspires me as an athlete of like, reminding myself my why and reminding myself of how bad I actually want it and what are the reasons I want it for. I think she does such a beautiful job of painting that not only on her social media, but just in person and with the story that she's writing out for herself. So all that to say, go listen to the podcast if you haven't already with Kat Fosbender. Go watch the Elite 15 women's doubles race and you'll see her live in action. Go follow her, give her some love because I know that this is only the beginning for her, and she's just a special one, guys. Like, trust me on that. So big shout out to her. But let's get into just like some learning moments, some takeaways, aha moments from this past weekend, along with, again, those tips that I was talking about. And I want to start with like the big aha moments because it pieces the weekend together so well. And I'm just going to go in order of the races in which I did them and the days in which I lived them, because I think that makes the most sense. So there's not one that's more important than the other. It's just how I lived through this. But, the night before, everyone is like thinking about obviously the next day. I was just like so at peace. I honestly, you guys, even leading up into the moment of like, I didn't feel a ton of nerves. And that was like really interesting for me, because I usually get some little bit of nerves and I welcome them in because it means that I'm getting ready to do something that's important and my body's preparing me for that. I've always believed in that. This time I just didn't have that. And I remember sitting at the starting line watching the video and the countdown and the lights and everyone, just like the energy, right? And I just was like, I'm just so excited to get out there and be in this incredible venue and just smile my way through this entire thing and see my people and hear them cheering me on and getting to interact with them. And I got to have that moment, like times 100. Guys, I had the most fun that I think I've ever had on a race course. And that's saying a lot, because I love DECA and I love all the things that I've done, but I truly was like so locked in, but also just so free. And I had such a special moment on the course. And I think I said it more than once. Actually, I know I said it more than once, but I started to get teary-eyed, where I genuinely told myself as I'm running how proud I am of myself. How freaking proud I am of myself, not just for stepping up to the starting line in a race that has scared me for so many years, not just for doing so well and for, setting a really awesome first time of 1:12 flat, for not knowing how to pace this race and just experiencing it all for the first time, not just because of any of that, just knowing what I've been through in the last year. And just even knowing too, like how much I've struggled to truly like appreciate myself and give myself credit and just see myself for the athlete that I am. Like, I genuinely felt it in that moment, that proudness, that celebratory spirit that I've been searching for. And that was insanely special. And I don't know, I don't have the tip or the advice for you or of how I got there. I think honestly, it's just been when you expose yourself enough times to it, and also when you just walk in with the right headspace, magic happens in that way. And that is something that I did want to share, is like, I walked into this knowing that I wasn't going to be the best. I had actually no idea what I was going to do. I dropped all expectations. Like, yes, it was, I had a compass of I wanted to be between around 110 to 115 for my first race. That to me would have been really cool. But I dropped all expectations and I just allowed for myself to just freaking race and do what felt right in that particular moment and just be so present. And I honestly think walking into that, knowing that I wasn't the best and that I was going to be amongst the people that were going to push me, and I wasn't the person to watch, like it was freeing for me, and it was, I think, really good for me. And the reason why I share this is not only because I feel like, oh, well, there's no expectation and I just like thrived. I do think that happened. But I think about like how inspired I am to be better. When you put yourself in a room of people that are absolute badasses, there's two ways that you can look at it. You can be afraid and run, or you can run towards greatness, and you can allow for the people in the room to elevate you and to inspire you for what's to come next. And I felt so strongly in that moment, I felt inspired by the people that were in that room, to the point where I'm like, okay, I have the itch, I have the drive, I have the why, I have the energy now coming back home to put some fire behind my next few race blocks that I'm going to be preparing for. Like, that to me is really cool. But I want to share this, like, if you are holding back from doing that race or starting that training program or putting yourself in that class, in that room, within that group of people, if you were holding back because you were afraid that you aren't the best and are worried about being in last place, you are robbing yourself of not only your growth, but of your joy. I put myself in that space and I got to experience an absurd amount of both. So if you felt that to your core when I said that, of like, wow, I'm holding myself back because I'm worried about being last, or I'm worried about not being the best, get out of your own way and allow for yourself to elevate with the people that are going to help you do so. It was one of the coolest things all weekend. So just wanted to share like how amazing of a moment I had. And guys, I was scared shitless in the weeks up to this. And when I signed up, I was like, all right, I just signed up to do 100 wall balls at the end of a really long race. Fantastic. It was so out of my comfort zone. So like, take what I'm telling you right now and please let that be the fire to go sign up for that thing that you've been holding yourself back from doing. So I was on cloud 9 coming out of that race. Everyone was like really impressed with my time. Like, I honestly, I didn't really care what people thought of my time. I was just like, that was so much fun. I had so much joy. There's so many pictures of me smiling. I got to see my people. Like, I was just like literally on cloud 9. So then taking that over into later that night, this was a really cool experience, you guys. If you've ever watched the Elite 15 race on like a YouTube live stream, I can tell you the energy in person is insane. Like the music, the lights, the production, how fast they're actually running, that like the camera will never be able to depict. Like, it is so cool. I got to watch the women live. I went back to the place we were staying at to watch the men live because we had to get up early in the morning the next day. But like, y'all, it was so cool. And here was one of my favorite moments. So we're in the Elite 15 men's race and we're at the wall balls. And I'll be honest, it could be anyone's race at this point. Yes, someone came in maybe a minute or 30 seconds or whatever before someone, but the way that it ended, you never would have guessed. James Kelly, I think, was in 5th or 6th coming out of the lunges, and he was so consistent with his wall balls that he took 2nd. And yes, there was a lot of other things that had to happen, like other people fell apart, other people weren't able to handle the pressure, or like judging calls. I mean, there was a lot that happened. But think about it. He was someone that was never leading the race. He was flirting with like places 5th through 8th throughout majority of the race. Like, he wasn't anywhere near a qualifying spot. He talked about the fact that like after he got out of, a certain station, he was 50 seconds back from a qualifying spot for Sweden. Think about when we are racing, right? And maybe you look down at your clock, or maybe you see how far ahead your other competitors are, and you think, it's just not going to happen for me. I know I've done it. I've done it several times. Shit, I've done it in training sessions. Like, how many times do we do that? And then we count ourselves out and we just do enough to coast and cross the finish line. James did not do that. He came in composed, he played his cards right, and he crossed the finish line in 2nd, and he earned his spot to Sweden. Guys, the thing that really stuck out to me is that it is not over until it's freaking over. Think about that the next time that you step into a race. Go until you cross the finish line. Go until you can't no more. Literally. It doesn't matter what the time is, doesn't matter where you fall, but just say it's not over until it's over. And what you might find is that you genuinely shock yourself of where you end up in both of those things. So I just thought that that was such a cool moment for him. I've been following along on just his journey. I like him as an athlete. I think he's got a lot of great things to say. And so it was cool to watch someone who I very much relate to, where, I'm not necessarily, depending on what race we're in, but I'm not always leading the race, but I know how to close a race really well, right? Like, that gave me confidence to just keep going when it feels like it's been decided of who's going to get the podium. Like, no, like, it's not over till it's over. Take it till you literally cross the finish line with everything that you have and more. So that was the Elite 15 night, and I absolutely loved that. Also got to watch, like I said, the following day, we did not a mixed doubles, a mixed relay team. I about died there. I ran very hard and I hurt very hard. And I was really proud of myself for just how well I did said things. But then we stayed and we watched the Elite 15 doubles races, and those were freaking amazing. Again, that's where Kat had her moment, and it was so cool to follow her along the course and be able to cheer, all the things. Going into the next day, I had an off day, which was really nice. I had the opportunity to meet Lauren Weeks and Anthony, her husband, and her daughter Lily. And oh my gosh, you guys, I've always had respect for Lauren Weeks. One, because she's a freaking phenomenal racer. She's a mom, she's an athlete, she does all the things. And she just sets such a good example for so many of us women of what is possible and how you can push the boundaries. But I gained even more respect for her this weekend because I actually had a chance to just be in her presence and run next to her and talk with her. And she is so down to earth, just an absolute wonderful, positive human being that's creating so much great impact in the sport. So I wanted to take a moment to share that, to, go subscribe to her channel on YouTube, go follow her on social media. Those are the people that are bringing in the good vibes into our community. Stay close to that, because that's going to make all the difference in the end. So had the opportunity to do that, get to meet a bunch of people. And then going into Sunday, this was the final day, I had the opportunity to do a race with my girls that I coach, Kira, Nikki, and Olivia. And it was so freaking fun. But I want to go, because there's two things that came from this specific race. The first actually happened before the race. And I was not expecting this. I was on my favorite machine of all, the Concept 2 bike. Oh, it's my favorite thing. And I was warming up, and Chris Rogalski comes up. And she's like, "Hey, are you busy?" And I'm like, "Nope, I can listen to this." And she's like, "You probably don't know who I am." I'm like, "Oh, I know who you are, and I absolutely love you." I probably was that weird lady that was like, "Yep, I absolutely love you. I'm obsessed with you." And the reason why I say that is because she's just like Lauren Weeks. I put her and Lauren Weeks literally in the same boat. They are just such solid human beings. And I really loved following her journey, the ups, the downs, everything in between. And so I had the opportunity to talk with her. And she mentioned that she's listened to the podcast, and she brought up some very specific things. And I won't share exactly what that conversation was, because that just was for her and I. But she did just happen to commend me on what I've overcome in the last few months and the person that I've become and how strong I am. And that meant the world to hear that from someone like her, someone that I think is just as incredibly strong and amazing. But the thing that I really got out of that conversation is just showing up 100% as you. Keep showing up 100% you every single day that you can. On this podcast, I show up as me. In my races, I do my damn best to always show up as me no matter what happens. In every class that I teach and every client that I train, when I'm around my friends, I really, really work my hardest to authentically be myself. Because especially when you've had the past of not ever being enough and having to sort of shapeshift to be accepted and loved by other people, if there's anything these last few months have really taught me and have really forced me to do, thankfully, is to just fully love and accept and believe and trust within myself. And just that conversation brought that back up. Guys, you never know who is watching your story right now, who is listening to your story as you're currently writing it. Continue to show up as you and do the best that you can with whatever it is that you have in that moment. Continue to do that. And you will be shocked how many people that you impact and inspire just through doing such. I'm always so blessed to go to these weekends, and never do I ask for it, but just people like Chris that come up to me and thank me for what I'm doing behind the microphone and how I'm showing up on social media in the most real way possible. Like they feel like they're my friend and they've never met me. Like that is stuff that we have in our control that we can do every single day. So I don't know what that looks like for you or how that resonates for you, but it just gave me the confidence to continue to be me, that I'm on the right path. And there's only up from here to go. Like I am truly on a trajectory that I know is something special. And then the last little, or big, I should say, takeaway, big moment that I had was just my mindset during this final relay. I think it's really easy to think back to previous races, aka the one I had on Friday, and think about how bad that hurt and how much I really don't want to feel that. Like the reason why I get nervous for races is not because of the race itself, is because I know there's specific moments where I'm like, that is gonna suck. And I really struggle to feel that, like or at least to enjoy feeling that. I'll be honest, that's the reason why I get nervous. So during this specific relay, I had the run into the burpee broad jumps and then the run into the wall balls. And I would say, I mean, I think every station has their own pros and cons. I think aerobically, I had two of some of the hardest stations, or at least mentally. I would put the ergs in a very close second, so shout out to you, Kira. But here's the way that it went down for those of you that didn't run Phoenix, is you would run most of the kilometer, and then you would go in through the in arch, you would do your zone, go out the out arch, and because the transition zone for the relay was behind the out arch, you obviously couldn't hang a Roger and go into incoming traffic. You had to run all the way back around and go to the transition zone. So I don't know how much more of a kilometer that was, but whatever it was fucking painful. And excuse my language, but anyone that did that would be like, amen, sister. Okay. So I'm thinking about like this burpee broad jump situation of like, okay, 80 meters of going all out after just coming from a tough run. And then I got to run out of that. Guys, I saw my life flash before me on that one. Like on that run, I actually will share this because I was telling the girls this and it was funny how many of them agreed. But so you go out the out arch and you're starting to go towards the front of the course there and you're passing the in arch, and then it goes underneath like this, I'll call it like a tunnel type thing, but it goes underneath something and you can't see what's going on back there. Once people enter it, you don't see them until they pop back out on the other side. And part of me was like, I wonder if I could just slow down, maybe walk a little bit. No one could see me. Just take a second to come back to. But I didn't, and I kept pushing and I made it through. So after that happened, I was like, shit, I have 100 wall balls to do. I would love to go unbroken, but I just don't know if I'm going to have it in me. Like I've never gone 100 wall balls unbroken before in my life. And so I went to the bathroom and I was listening to the stories that I was telling myself. And, I'm maybe 5 to 8 minutes away before it's time for me to get back out there to finish the race for me and my team. And I just so vividly remember me telling myself, you are the story you tell yourself. You will live the story that you tell yourself right here in that moment. So tell a fucking good one. What story do you want to tell? And I was like, you know what I'd love to tell? I would love to take this run in whatever best pace I have for this particular moment. And I'd like to come into the wall balls with the biggest smile on my face, with my girls right in front of me cheering me on. And I want to enjoy that presence. And I just want to keep putting my butt to the grass as low as I can go and try and hit that target as many times as possible. Ideally, that's close to 50 before I take any sort of break. But I want to do this not only for me and just keep going through that like, oh, give me one more, not just for me. I want to do it for the people standing in front of me. That's the story that I want to listen to. So I just kept putting that on replay. Nikki comes freaking sprinting down the way. She looks amazing. So proud of her and her lunges still to this moment. And I go out and I am just thinking, I get to run to my girls. I get to run to my girls. I get to run to some of my favorite people on planet Earth. And they get to dance, they get to scream, and I get to squat. And my legs might hurt. I might like lose my breath, but you know what? I get to have this moment with them. How freaking special is that? And not only did I get to have that moment and more, like, guys, I had the biggest smile on my face with them right there. But I did 100 wall balls unbroken, and we crossed the finish line and we shared the most amazing hug. And I share that again to remind you that, like, you are the story that you tell yourself. You will live through whatever story that you tell yourself. So tell a good one. It doesn't have to be this perfect one. And if it doesn't fully line that way, it doesn't mean that you failed by any means, but give yourself a fighting chance, right? Don't sit there and tell yourself something otherwise, guess what? It's going to happen. All of this to say, you guys, like, momentum builds on momentum. Positivity builds on positivity. Like, if you can really tap into that in a realistic way, I promise you are going to have so much freaking fun and you are going to shock yourself. So let's take all of that and let's finish the podcast up with a tip that I have for you guys. And it's going to come down into the form of 2 questions. For those of you that just finished HYROX Phoenix this past weekend, or for those of you that maybe did some sort of race this past weekend, or let's say that you're getting ready to race in the next 6 to 12 weeks, you're in your training block for something, and you are like trying to figure out how you're going to see the most success, okay? Doesn't matter what bucket you're in. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what was the biggest area of opportunity, whether that be from the race that you did this past weekend for those of you that just raced, or the most recent race that you did for those of you that didn't race, right? What, in reflection, was the one, not the 7, because we could sit there and pick ourselves apart for like ever. Trust me, I do it too. But what was the one big gleaming thing that stuck out to you? There's no right or wrong answer, but I do want you to be specific with it. Oh, I just, I have the opportunity to go faster. I have the opportunity to push the pace. No. Get really granular with it, okay? So write that down. Then you're going to follow it with that question of asking yourself, what was your biggest fear, or what were you most nervous about at the start line? Like, what was going through your head? What were you thinking, like, okay, don't forget this, or blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, yes, everyone's nervous that, like, maybe they'll forget to take their gel, or maybe they'll trip over something. Not that stuff. I'm talking about, like, I'm really nervous about going too hot on the ski and blowing myself up. Or I'm really nervous about the run after the burpee broad jumps, right? Those kind of things. I want you to write that down, okay? And here's the reasons why I asked you these 2 questions, is because your training should be intentionally focused on how to build confidence in those areas, so that the next time that you walk up to the starting line, you're not worried about the problem that you had last time. Maybe it's a different one, and that's fine, right? We'll tackle that in the future. But you're making that sort of notable progress of where you're not worried about a race strategy. You're not worried about how this specific part of the race is going to go. You're just able to show up and execute. The more that you build confidence with intentional training, the more that you're going to show up to those starting lines in the way that I did, and was able to just say, let's just let it rip. Let's just have some fun. And you get to smile the whole way freaking through, and you shock yourself, okay? So take those 2 answers and go all in on them for your next race. And by all in, I do not mean with like crazy volume and crazy intensity. Again, I mean intentional with how you are training it. If you don't know what that means, ask someone if you're stuck. Okay, like ask yourself if like, I don't really know where to start. Start with my podcast from last week where I talk about intensity and how to utilize it properly during your training. If you have a coach, text your coach and say, hey, I realize these 2 things. Help me focus on them, right? And get some guidance there. if you're doing this, like I said, without any sort of guidance, like please listen to last week's episode or go and ask someone. Please don't try and do this alone. No, we love to try and do this alone, but you just found some really, really good answers. Go use them to find some success. All right, you guys, thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I'm so stoked for everything that's to come, not just for me, but for all of you after what was an absolutely amazing weekend. And for those of you that are going to Vegas, for those of you that are going in DC, I won't see you in Vegas, but good luck. And I will see those of you that are going to HYROX DC. So excited to finally meet and see some of the people at the Deca Strong at Pursue on February 14th. Sign up if you haven't already, but let's go take some action on what we learned from this podcast, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Becoming Strong.